Hey engineers, I'm excited to share Service Standards 360, an evolution of our Service Standards feature that helps engineering teams build services with excellence in mind. Service Standards helps you to up-level the old way of doing pre-production checklists and use the power of your microservices catalog and its information about your services to make this a dynamic, always up-to-date measurement of service quality. Service Standards unlocks the ability to see this from multiple perspectives so you can get a full 360-degree picture of what's most important to you, to your engineering team, for your services. So let's take a look at a few different examples. So I'll head over to our trusty demo environment and click on Standards. Here you'll see a handful of standards that we've defined to measure different types of readiness within our demo environment. The first one's operational readiness. This applies to all of our services in our environment and helps, ultimately determine if a service is production ready. It has a handful of criteria, and you can see that of all the 26 services that this applies to, there's some work that needs to be done. 17 services need documentation defined. 14 services, need a tag with protocol that describes what protocol it's using. 13 services need a tier, and so on and so forth. But if I click back over to standards, you can see that there's been a handful of different types of perspectives and groupings that have been targeted for our standards product. So if I click on critical services readiness, this shows our targeting in action. So instead of applying to all of the services in the catalog, this actually only applies to the most important services that have been defined with a tier of 0, so 4 services. You can see all of them are missing criteria, all of them need documentation, but at least they all have an on-call rotation, they all have dashboards, they all have runbooks, they all have an issue tracker defined. If I click back over to standards, let's take a look at a different perspectives. Let's look at our services from the perspective of business continuity. Obviously, disaster recovery plans are incredibly important to the world of understanding what's happening with your microservices. So if I click through here, you can see that I have 25 of my services. Of those 26 actually don't have DR plans defined within FX. And you can see that there's some work that needs to be done. So going back, you can define whatever perspectives make the most sense for you, whether it's a perspective that your site reliability team has on production readiness. It could be a perspective that your developer tools team has on things like code coverage. Your security team making sure that scannings are happening fairly regularly. So how does this manifest itself on a per service basis as well? So if I head over to our trusty loss service, I can see that on the service profile page, we have this panel for service quality. And really quickly, I can see that I'm actually meeting 24 of the 27 requirements based on the 5 standards that this applies to. I'll click through to view the details and get a little bit more information. So the summary across all of the different standards that apply to the loss service is, I'm missing 3 of 27 requirements. But I click through and I can see that I'm actually meeting all of my requirements for business continuity. I'm missing 2 of my 6 requirements for critical services. For Kubernetes service quality, I'm actually meeting all my requirements, and so on and so forth. So you can really see that this gives the engineer that owns the service the work that needs to be done in order to ensure that they're building production readiness into their particular service. So this is all completely customizable. You can define your own standard and create the criteria for what's important to you. Let's do that really quick and create a new standard. So when you click the new standard button up here on the top right, first you get to choose, does this apply to all of my services or just ones with specified tags? Let's go ahead and just make, let's make a standard for Kubernetes services that are critical services. So, deployed with Kubernetes, they're tier 0 services. I can see that actually matches 4 services. Click continue, and I can define the criteria. So I can choose metadata. So let's make sure that the service has an on-call rotation. Let's make sure that it has an issue tracker, but maybe that's not as important. So it's just recommended. We know that all of our services that are running in Kubernetes are actually running Go. So we want to make sure that they're all actually running Go 1.15 or greater. And we want to make sure that they've actually all been deployed at least once in the last, maybe 7 days in the last week, greater than or equal to at least one time in the past week, so that we can ensure that, there's at least some sense of running the latest container image that may not have any security issues. I can click continue. I can give it a name. So we'll call this like the K8's critical standard, give it a description, give it an email address for folks to reach out to, click create, and suddenly you have a new standard. So again, if you want to learn more, head over to our full blog post about Service Standards 360 at fx.com. And if you want to see your services in FX, sign up for a 14-day free trial at fx.com and start building service excellence into your microservices world today. Thank you.